Hey guys, Joe here. Just walking to my day job, carrying my phone in front of me like a psycho. Why am I ending the podcast? Maybe it's confusing to some people. Maybe I haven't made it clear enough as to why the podcasts are ending. No drama, nothing no bad blood that I'm aware of. Nothing to do with me and my co-hosts or anything like that, but we have all agreed for the various podcasts that it's time to be done, at least with the podcasts that we're currently doing. And for me, with all podcasts for a while, podcasts have served me very well. They've given me, I think, probably the biggest thing in my life is just an excuse to hang out with a couple of my friends regularly, which is something that I think as adults we do or after college we don't make time for enough. Time to regularly hang out with friends when it's something that's so enriching to our lives. I really like what Tim Ferriss has to say about regularly making time to be with your friends, once a week or something like that. And I am trying to replace my podcasting time with a game night with a friend and his wife and my wife a few weeks ago, and I'm gonna keep trying to do that, trying to make hanging out with friends a regular part of my weekly or monthly routine as an adult, while not having to do hours of prep before recording a podcast on it. That's what it's been primarily for me. That's been its primary function in my life. It's been fun to dive down into subjects that I've liked since I was a teenager. That's been fun too, and it's been cool to meet people and grow an audience and have people like you listening to the podcast. Not that you'll come and listen to this blog or vlog, but I know a couple of you will, so this is for you. So nothing bad about the podcast. It really has to do with just realizing probably a couple of years ago or a year and a half ago, just realizing I just didn't have time in my life. I had 9,000 goals, which is good to have goals, just not 9,000 of them. I had 9,000 goals. I had the podcast I was doing. I had exercise that I was doing, training for a marathon or a half marathon at the time, and now training for Grand Canyon Rim to Rim. And I was learning a language. I learned Spanish to a survival level, I would say. If I got into a Spanish country and I was alone, I'd be okay. And I got engaged, and then I got married, and all these things. But at the same time, I was making movies, and I'd have to press pause on everything, make the movie or shoot the movie, and then all these other things in my life would basically elongate every other goal and project that I had. I had reading goals, was reading all the Harvard classics. I was reading or listening to a biography on every president, and I got about a fourth of the way through that. But I realized I just wasn't making progress in things. But when a movie would happen, I would stop everything and do the movie, and then that would actually happen, right? And it just kind of echoed a sentiment I heard from Edgar Wright, which was you really only have time for two, I think he said hobbies, but really two things in your life. And for him, he was talking about he's making movies, and at the same time he has a deep passion and love for music appreciation. That was him. But I think I can go a little further than that. I think you maybe have time for 4 things in your life if you are a working professional. If you have a job that you can't just... I had a parking lot attendant job where I really only worked for like 2 hours and then just sat there for the other 8. And that was awesome because I got to write at the same time. So I was a writer while also being a parking attendant. But most people don't have jobs where they can just do things like that. Especially like now, my job, I'm working in a very similar field to where I want to be. And it is requiring like a lot of mental effort and energy. And I can't just, take half of my work day and work on my own screenplays. As much as I've been tempted to do that. It's not good. So anyway, I just realized I just did not have time in my life for all the things that I wanted to accomplish. And at some point I had to like rank order. This was about 2 years ago. So it's been a little longer, I guess. It's just taking forever to end the podcast. I had to rank order what was the most important. And I realized, okay, well, in all reality, what would I have to stop one thing to do another if something came up? And the answer was, well, family is the most important. Family, friends, my own health. That's actually what I put at number 1, was my own health. Because if I'm not in a good spot, I cannot help other people. Physically, mentally. So I kind of rank ordered, and that helped. By rank ordering my priorities, I was able to kind of go through my days and still kind of get most of the stuff done that I needed to get done. But I would work on 1 hour here, 1 hour here, 2 hours here on different things, including playing the games for the podcast or whatever. And I just realized the less important things on the list, which podcast was pretty low on the list, would not get done. And I was like, okay, this isn't working. So I remember I had that sentiment going on from Edgar Wright in the back of my head that I heard years ago. And I was like, okay, well, in reality, what do I really have time for that I could really focus on? If you're taking in if you want that 3-hour or 4-hour chunk of time to really work on a skill or to build another business or whatever, to really give it the full amount of attention that you need to give it in order to succeed, how much time do you actually need to put for that? And it's definitely not, 1 hour Spanish here, 1 hour of exercise here, 1 hour of podcast, 1 hour of movie making or writing. You don't ever get that far in any of your goals if you're spreading out 90 goals. So this is a problem I think I see with a lot of creative people. I have a good friend named Timo, and he has the same problem, where it's like you want to dabble in everything because everything is interesting in some way. But the fact is that there are only so many hours in the day. I wish I was one of those people that only needed to sleep like 5 hours. A genetic, beautiful gift that some people have. I don't have that. I'm a 7.5 to 8 hour kind of guy. So I only have 16 hours in the day. And some of those hours in the day have to be put towards, not smelling bad or for driving to work or whatever. So really, when it all comes down to it, and I realized I kind of went through my day, when it came down to it, I really only had time for like one other thing, which kind of like echoed Edgar Wright's sentiment. Now, I would say you probably have time for 3 things during the day, 3 or 4 things during the day. But to me, working out is because that's my top priority. That's a non-negotiable. So an hour of my day for most days of the week, if not all, if it's a good week, have to be dedicated to, working out and being in the best physical shape that I can see myself being in for this moment of time. So with that in mind, I really only have time for one thing. So let me sum up a little bit. If you work and you place importance on your physical health, you have time. You have a little bit of time you can spend with your family or friends that day. And then you might, if you organize your day well enough, you'll have 2, 3, maybe 4 hours to work on, your one thing that can really move the needle in terms of a skill you want to work on, a goal you have, a project, whatever. And the question really became for me, and then maybe you have some time for another one on the weekends, So I guess in life, Edgar Wright said you have time for 2 things. Well, I honestly concur. It seems like career, one hobby or project or something that you're regularly making progress in or getting better at, and then family, and then physical exercise and well-being, like keeping your place clean and keeping yourself clean and all that. You only have time for those 4 things. Now, if you drop exercise and you drop, your personal hygiene or whatever, yeah, maybe you do have time for another one. You can slide another one in there. A little bit of judgment, but people do that. But I got nowhere at 1 hour a day on 5 different things. And I just realized my one thing right now is going to be the podcast. And I'm going to have the podcast end because the podcasts are not my number one priority in terms of where I want to be. I want to, and I am to some extent making a living as a filmmaker, but I want to own my own business, my own production company that keeps me afloat. And that's going to require a lot of extra time outside of just what I'm doing for my day job in order to make that happen. I want to make more movies. That's going to require writing time to make that happen. And to me, these are all kind of like one goal. It's just, being a filmmaker for a living, whether or not that's in commercial content or narrative or documentary features, whatever it is. That's my passion. That's what I live for. That's what I like. Not that I don't like podcasts. I like podcasts a lot. In terms of new media, it's my favorite new form. And maybe I'll go back to it someday if I don't have to work a day job and my day job is filmmaking. Then yeah, I'll probably start a podcast or start keeping bees or I don't know what my next hobby will be, but I told myself I'll give myself 5 years after the podcasts are ended to really work as hard as humanly possible on my career goals while also staying in decent shape, while also keeping good relationships with family and friends and my wife. Since I just got married, I want to work on being a good husband and starting a solid family with her. And so yeah, all those things are taking precedence. So thank you all for listening to the podcast over the years. Nothing personal. I love doing the podcasts. I just don't think they are a priority in my life right now. So I encourage you guys out there who love Godzilla or Final Fantasy or video games and have really funny friends to start your own podcasts and all those things. Like, yeah, I think I've said what I needed to say. Thanks for listening. Maybe every once in a while, because I don't have social media, maybe every once in a while I'll post a vlog here on YouTube. So if you want to keep up with me, maybe this is a good place to do it. Maybe not. Maybe that'll take up too much of my time. But I figured I'm walking to work right now. This is dead time anyway. I'll use it to talk to you guys for a second. But anyway, I gotta end this. Have a good day.